Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Lana Labonte, and I am here to uplift, support, inspire, and empower you to be the best version of you you're meant to be. Welcome to my living room, where we are continuing on with the journey of the untethered soul. And today, chapter 18, The Secret of the Middle Way. Aren't you curious? If you don't already know, I've spoken about this at length in previous videos of mine. So, here we go. No discussion of living life as a spiritual path is complete without addressing one of the deepest of all teachings, the Tao Te Ching. It discusses that which is very difficult to discuss, that which Lao Tzu called the Tao, pronounced Tao, D-O-W. Literally translated, this means the way. The Tao is so subtle that one can only talk around its edges, but never actually touch it. In that treatise, the very basis for the principles of life is laid down. It is a treatise on the balance of the yin and the yang, the feminine and the masculine, the dark and the light. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with what a treatise is, it's a written work dealing formally and systematically with the subject. So the basis of life, the Tao Te Ching, is based on life and the principles. You could easily read the Tao Te Ching and never understand a single word. Or you could read it and tears could pour down your face from your eyes with every word you read. The question is, do you bring to it the knowledge, the understanding, and the basis for comprehending what it is attempting to express? Unfortunately, spiritual teachings often mask the essence of truth with mystical words. But this balance, this Tao, is actually very simple. Those who have truly learned the secrets of life recognize these truths without having read anything. If you want to understand the Tao, you must take it very slowly and keep it very simple. Otherwise, you may miss it, though it is right in front of you. It is best to approach the Tao through some very simple, almost rhetoric questions. For example, is it good for a person to eat sometimes? Yes, obviously it is. Is it good for a person to eat all the time? No, of course not. Somewhere in between, you passed over the Tao. Is it good to fast periodically? Yes. Is it good to never eat? No. The pendulum can swing all the way from gorging yourself to death to starving yourself to death. Those are the two extremes of the pendulum, the yin and the yang, expansion and contraction, non-doing and doing. Everything has gradations of this pendulum swing. If you go to extremes, you cannot survive. That's how extreme the extremes are. For example, do you like hot weather? How about 6,000 degrees Fahrenheit? You'd be instantly vaporized. Do you like cold weather? How about absolute zero? The molecules of your body would never move again. And isn't it funny? This is something I picked up a long time ago about talking about swinging on the pendulum of life. I've already discussed it regarding these chapters previously, that what he's discussing about extremes are two opposites of the same coin. That's the best way to explain it, because true and false, there's the neutral. There's just what is. There's the yin and the yang, the feminine and the masculine. But in order to be whole, you have to bring the two extremes into balance. So when we're witnessing extremes, we're simply seeing where we're out of balance. And that's how we recognize where and when we need to course correct in our lives. Because contrast That's what this is talking about. An extreme is a contrast. You see the lines, you see the form changes, and because your mind makes it matter, because you're in your thoughts. Anyway. Let's use an example that is a little less extreme. Do you like being close to another person? How about being so close that you're never apart? You eat every meal together. You go everywhere together. And you do everything together. When you talk on the phone, you always use a speakerphone so that both of you can partake in every conversation. You want to be so close that you're the same person. How long do you think that could last? That's one extreme in human relationships. The other extreme is that you want your own space. You do your own thing. You're independent. You like being separate so that you always have something to share with each other when you're together. How independent are you? Well, you travel separately, you eat separately, and you live in separate homes. At what point are you so separate that no one can figure out if you're having a relationship? You haven't seen each other for years. Both of these extremes will end up the same. Too close, too far away. In either case, you won't be talking to each other before long. Everything has its extremes, its yin and its yang. Now let's get a little subtler. The 6,000 degree temperature doesn't sound so good, and absolute zero doesn't sound so interesting either. Neither does starving to death nor eating until you're sick. But that part about being so close to somebody that you're always together may sound pretty nice. You may at least like to give it a shot. If so, it's because your pendulum has been swung in the opposite direction for too long. You've had too much time alone, too many dinners alone, too many movies alone, and too much traveling alone. In other words, your pendulum has swung off center. From science, we know that if you pull a pendulum 30 degrees to the right, it will swing back until it's 30 degrees to the left. You don't need Lao Tzu to tell you this. All the laws are the same, inner laws and outer laws. The same principles drive everything in this world. If you pull a pendulum out one way, it will swing back just that far the other way. If you've been starving for days and somebody puts food in front of you, you won't be polite while you're eating. You will shove the food into your mouth just like an animal. The degree to which you will act like an animal is the exact degree to which you were starved enough to bring up your animal instincts. So where is the Tao? The Tao is in the middle. It's the place where there is no energy pushing or pulling in either direction. The pendulum has been permitted to come to balance concerning food, relationships, sex, money, doing, not doing, and everything else. Everything has its yin and yang. The way is the place in which these forces balance quietly. And indeed, unless you go out of the way, they will tend to stay in peaceful harmony. If you want to understand the Tao, you must take a closer look at what lies between the two extremes. This is because neither extreme can last. How long can a pendulum stay at one of its outermost positions? It can only remain there for a moment. How long can a pendulum stay at rest? It can remain there forever because there are forces moving it out of balance. That is the Tao. It is the center. But that does not mean that it stays static and fixed. We're about to see that it's much more dynamic than that. I like to think of it that it's about balancing and it's waves. So the way it's really neutrality. It's when the extremes coexist, but because they're equal and in balance, you don't recognize them. There is no contrast to show the imbalance. Without the contrast, it appears neither exists. But when you are in that neutrality, this and that are halves of the whole. And when they are whole, then you are neutral, balanced, and in harmony. So it's an interesting dynamic, and I speak about this often, about fragmenting ourselves. When we only want to accept the good stuff in us, and we want to deny and reject all the bad stuff, we're making ourselves fragmented. So there are holes that exist where the stuff we didn't want to own really belongs. So we have to collect all our fragmented pieces and bring that balance back by making ourselves whole and allowing that instead of being so extreme and just taking what we want, we also accept what is. And that's bringing ourselves back to whole. That is creating that harmony within. First, you have to realize that since everything has its yin and yang, everything has its own balance point. It is the harmony of all these balance points woven together that forms the Tao. This overall balance maintains its equilibrium as it moves through time and space. Its power is phenomenal. If you want to imagine the power of the Tao, examine how much energy is wasted swinging sideways. Suppose you want to go from point A to B, but instead of walking there directly, you move from side to side like a sine wave. That would take a long time, and you would waste a lot of energy. In other words, it's not efficient to oscillate around the path. To be efficient, you must center all your energies on the path. If you do this, the energies that used to be wasted swinging sideways will get pulled into the center. This concentration of energies is used to accomplish the given task much more efficiently. This is the power of the Tao. When you stop swinging between the opposites, you'll find that you have far more energy than you ever imagined. That which takes somebody else hours will take you minutes. That which wears out other people will draw very little of your energy. That's the difference between struggling with the opposites versus staying centered in order to get something done. It's the same as I was saying, your power and your energy is in the present. You cannot be in your power if you're in the past or in the future. And so the extremes are also the past and the future. Those in itself equal the present. So again, as he's saying, the easiest way to imagine it is, if you are in the present, you're in that in-between space. The way is being present. It's not choosing the past or the future. It's not being hijacked by your mind and your thoughts, but being present with what is, being the observer, the witness, and the experiencer of what is happening in this moment. That extremism is when you're hijacked and your energy is literally stolen from your presence in the present, and it goes back to the past. That energy gets hijacked. Same with the future. Until you bring it back to the present, you are just basically fragmenting, spreading out your energy in places that maybe you don't want to put it. This principle holds true in every aspect of life. If you are in balance, you eat when it is time to eat, in a way that maintains the health of your body. To do otherwise is to waste energy dealing with the effects of eating too little, eating too much, or eating the wrong foods. It is much more efficient to deal with the body in a balanced manner than to be burdened with the effects of the extremes. Your mind thoughts equal extreme swinging. So again, I'm just touching upon the basics here. When you're on the pendulum, swinging on your extremes, it's no different than your mind and the thoughts, vacillating between the past and the future. And your mind also is always looking to solve something. So essentially, you could look at your thoughts as you always comparing yourself and seeing problems. And the funny part is, you may not think they're problems. You may think, oh, well, it's just part of my normal routine. I have to think about the things that I need to get done today. That's a problem. It's not a bad problem, just like we say there's good and bad stress. It's something you're looking to solve. It is something you're comparing and judging because you feel the need to have to decide to make choices. But if you set back, there is a neutral way of allowing and flowing in your life that doesn't require so much effort. Basically, you waste tremendous energy at the extremes. The more extreme it is, the more it becomes a full-time project. For example, the relationship in which you insist upon being together all the time would be a full-time job. The only way you could have another job is if you both did the same work at the same desk. At the other extreme, if you had no relationship and were lonely and depressed all the time, you couldn't accomplish much. So again, it takes all your energy to do the extremes. The inefficiency of your actions is determined by how many degrees off-center you are. You will be that much less able to use your energy for living life because you are using it to adjust for the pendulum swings. Extremes are good teachers. When you examine the extremes, it is easy to see the effects of imbalanced behavior patterns. That, for me, when I read that, I was like, oh yeah, when I feel like I'm getting nothing done and I just feel like the day just went by and yet I'm exhausted, then I know I was swinging on that pendulum and that it's all my energy going to maintain the balancing act. Literally, it's not balanced, but you're trying to maintain a balance, swinging on that pendulum at the extremes. It's exhausting. Let's take the example of a chain smoker. He always has a cigarette in his mouth and he's constantly lighting up another. A meaningful percentage of his life is involved in smoking. He's buying cigarettes, lighting cigarettes, and smoking cigarettes. He's also very busy trying to find places where he's allowed to smoke. And since he doesn't like having to go outside to light up, he's joining the committees in favor of allowing smoking in public places. Notice how much of his energy is going into smoking? Now imagine that he decides to quit. Not a single cigarette anymore. If a year later you ask him what he did, he will tell you that he quit smoking. That was his life for the past year. First he tried the chewing gum, but that didn't really help. Then he tried the patch. When that didn't work, he moved on to hypnotherapy. Because the pendulum was so far to one extreme with the smoking, it had to swing in the opposite extreme in order for him to stop smoking. Both extremes were a tremendous waste of time, energy, and effort that could have gone into more productive aspects of life. When you spend your energy trying to maintain the extremes, nothing goes forward. You get stuck in a rut. The more extreme you are, the less forward movement there is. You carve a groove and you get stuck in it. Then there's no energy moving you in the Tao. It's all being spent serving the extremes. The way is in the middle because that's the place where the energies are balanced. But how do you stop the pendulum from swinging to the outer edges? Amazingly enough, you do this by leaving it alone. It won't keep swinging to the extremes unless you feed the extremes with energy. Just let the extremes go. Don't participate in them, and the pendulum will naturally come toward the center. As it comes to the center, you will get filled with energy. This is because all the energy that has been wasted is now available to you. That energy is your power. And your power can only exist in the now, in the present. The way is your power. So if you feel you need to reclaim your power, just get present, because that's where it exists. Bring it back to the breath, because the breath will always bring you back into the present moment. If you choose to center and not participate in the extremes, you will come to know the Tao. You don't grab it, you don't even touch it. It's just what the energy does when it's not being used to swing toward the extremes. It finds its own way to the center of each event that takes place in life and remains quietly in the middle. The Tao is hollow, empty, like the eye of a hurricane. Its power is its emptiness. All things swirl around it, but it is unmoved. The swirl of life draws its energy from the center, and the center draws its energy from the swirl of life. I love that. I'm going to read it again. That's just so good. The swirl of life draws its energy from the center, and the center draws its energy from the swirl of life. That's symbiotic. That is the yin and the yang, the balance. If you can imagine that symbol of the yin and yang in a movement, one's going one way, the other's going the other way, and that's what keeps them locked in together. That's what builds that energy. All these laws are the same in weather, in nature, and in every aspect of your life. As you center by not participating in the swings, the energies will naturally find their balance. You will become much clearer because so much energy is flowing up in you. The experience of being present in each moment will become your natural state. You won't be fixated on certain things or caught up in the thoughts about the opposites. As you get clearer, life's events will actually seem to unfold in slow motion. That's what I was saying about meditation, is that essentially you start to notice everything is happening around you and you're the observer even in your experience. Once this happens, events will no longer seem confusing or overwhelming, no matter what they are. This is quite different from how most people live. If they're driving a car and somebody cuts them off, they get upset for the next hour, or maybe for the rest of the day. For the being who is in the Tao, events take place and last just as long as they are taking place. That's it. If you're driving and somebody cuts you off, you feel your energy start to pull off center. You actually feel it in your heart. As you let go, it comes right back to center. You don't follow the extremes. So your energy comes back to the current moment. When the next event happens, you're there. You're always there. And that makes you much more capable than the person who is reacting to past imbalances. Almost everyone has a point at which they get out of balance. Once gone, who's minding the store? Who takes care of the energies that unfold while you're not there? Remember, whoever remains present with fixity of purpose comes out on top in the end. When you move in the Tao, you are always present. Life becomes absolutely simple. In the Tao, it's easy to see what's happening in life. It's unfolding right in front of you. But if you have all kinds of reactions going on inside you, because you're involved in the extreme, life seems confusing. That's because you're confused, not because life's confusing. See how the mind can flip that switch and make things out to be the problem when in reality it originated with the thought of that? When you stop being confused, everything becomes simple. If you have no preference, if the only thing you want is to remain centered, then life unfolds while you simply feel for the center. There is an invisible thread that passes through everything. All things move quietly through that center balance. That is the Tao. It is really there. It is there in your relationships, in your diet, and in your business activities. It is there in everything. It is the eye of the storm. It is completely at peace. To give you an idea of what it feels like to be in that center, let's use the example of sailing. We'll begin by going sailing when there's no wind. That's one extreme, and we're not going anywhere. Now let's go sailing when there's tremendous wind, but there's no sail. That's the opposite extreme, and again, we're not going anywhere. Sailing is such a good example because there are many forces interacting together. There's the wind, the sail, the rudder, and the tension of the ropes on the sail. There is a tremendous interplay of forces. What happens if the wind is blowing and you hold the sail too loosely? It doesn't work. What if you hold it too tightly? You tip over. To sail properly, you must hold it just right. But where is just right? It is in the center point of tautness of the sail against the forces of the wind. Not too much and not too little. It's what we call the sweet spot. Imagine that feeling when the wind hits the sail just right and you're holding the ropes just right. You take off with a perfect feeling of balance. Then the wind shifts and you adjust to it. You, the wind, the sail, and the water are one. All the forces are in harmony. Should one force shift, the others shift at the same instant. This is what it means to move in the way. In the Tao of sailing, the balance point is not static. It's a dynamic equilibrium. You move from balance point to balance point, from center to center. You can't have any concepts or preferences. You have to let the forces move you. In the way, nothing is personal. You are merely an instrument in the hands of the forces, participating in the harmony of balance. You must reach the point where your whole interest lies in the balance and not in any personal preference for how things should be. It's that way with all of life. The more you can work with the balance, the more you can just sail through life. Effortless action is what happens when you come into the Tao. Life happens, you're there, but you don't make it happen. There is no burden, there is no stress. The forces take care of themselves as you sit in the center. That is the Tao. It's the most beautiful place in all of life. You can't touch it, but you can be at one with it. Eventually, you will see that in the way of the Tao, you're not going to wake up, see what to do, and then go do it. In the Tao, you are blind, and you have to learn how to be blind. You can never see where the Tao is going. You can only be there with it. A blind person walks down a city street with the use of a cane. Let's give that cane a name. It's the seeker of the extremes. It's the feeler of the edges. It's the toucher of the yin and the yang. People who walk with the use of that cane often tap from side to side. They're not trying to find where they should walk. They're trying to find where they shouldn't walk. They're finding the extremes. If you cannot see your way, all you can do is feel for the edges. But if you feel for the edges and don't go there, you will stay in the way. That's how you live in the Tao. Learning from a blind person with their cane. How powerful is that? Very simple, very profound. Just that use of an example, the cane is simply keeping them in the center line. Not there, straight ahead of those 2 points. So essentially using the cane as a pendulum, and they're not the one on the pendulum. Their guidance is coming from seeing like the observer, like the witnesser, but without having to see. That's pretty cool. I like that. All the great teachings reveal the way of the center, the way of balance. Constantly look to see if that's where you are living or if you are lost in the extremes. The extremes create their opposites. The wise avoid them. Find the balance in the center, and you will live in harmony. Essentially, neutrality is key, because that's the middle way. And I had come to this conclusion a while ago. I got this huge download one time that it's not choosing this or that. And with all the craziness in the world, we've been conditioned to think we have to choose a side. That's what gets us in trouble. Because all of this human existence is conditioning, the influences that be. We're living in times where we're convinced, because of our programming, because of our upbringing, because of religion, because of politics, because of sports, pick a side. In fact, maybe you participated in sports, maybe you participated in any form of competition. This against that creates the conflict. This or that is two halves of the whole. Why don't they come back into unity and wholeness? When we allow ourselves to be hijacked into thinking we have to choose this or that, that's when we've lost. Set back. Who said you had to choose a side? That's a novel idea in itself. The idea that you don't have to choose. And of course, there are people that will say, not choosing is choosing. Is it? Is it? Depends on where you're coming from. Here or here. If not choosing is coming from your head, then sure, it's the same as choosing. Because again, the non-doing and the doing, same kind of concept. But again, you have to notice, are you coming from the head or are you coming from the heart? Are you coming from fear, or are you coming from love and expansion? It's always being present in the moment, being in awareness of your thoughts through the breath. Always bring it back to the present with the breath. Breathe in, slow down, take a good 5 to 10 breaths, because as you count and you become present with that breath, then those mind thoughts, the chatter, that starts appearing. Oh, look at you. There's that witness stuff again going on. I'm seeing all this stuff. Allow it. Be with it. Observe it, but don't be of it. Don't cling. Let it pass through like the clouds. Choosing your thoughts to hold on to them, that's part of that trap, the pendulum swinging. Clinging is the pendulum swinging. It's the thoughts that take us out of the moment, because it hijacks us from the present, literally steals us from the gift of the now, throws our energy back into the past or throws it out into the future. Like I said in the other video, your present is in the moment, because that is where your power, it's a gift of your power that exists because it's your presence in the present. Listen to the languaging, listen to the words. All you need to know, the gift is in the moment. The gift of life comes through spirit every time you breathe in. That brings you into the present. That's why it's a gift. God, Source, loves you so much. It gives you the breath, the prana, the spirit within you. You inspire, you take in breath, prana, life force. And usually when the mind hijacks, when it takes you out of the present, it's exhausting you and stealing your vital life force energy. You see how that works? So it's either going to hijack you into thoughts about the past or anticipation about the future. What you anticipate, you create, you draw to, you magnetize. If you can be in the present, that power is going to be more vitalizing, energizing. You'll expend less of it if you stay present. But you have to be in awareness. Awareness is key. And neutrality is the middle way. Recognizing Yes, you'll be pulled. You'll be inspired from within as opposed to reacting to the out. Don't go into the thoughts and the fear department. See it, allow it, let it be, but don't cling to it. Settle into the breath, become aware of the moment. You can even close your eyes and just start to listen. Listen to the sound of your breath, because your body, it actually wants to hear the sound of your breath. It actually likes the sound of your voice. In a lot of meditative practices, we record our own affirmations and meditations to hear our own voice, to listen to, because there's more resonance there. Your voice is healing. Your sound current, your vibration, it's a resonating sound current. Your frequent keys are actually healing your vibrancy. You're harmonizing, recalibrating yourself every time. You can hum, you can om, you can do whatever sound, whatever you feel arises from within can also heal your physical being. The more we tap into our body's wisdom, the more we start using these tools. We are a tuning fork. We can tune ourselves up, tune ourselves in, and literally tune up others around us when we get into our vibrational frequency, our alignment with our integrity, our spiritual and soul aligned, heartfelt coherence and integrity. We are powerful beings, but we have to own that power and not have it hijacked or give it away to the past or the future. Don't let the thoughts take you out of the moment. Yeah, it's going to happen. We're in the human body. We're living in a dualistic life. Polarity is everywhere. But polarity and contrast and duality, all same. They're going to show you the extremes. They're going to show you contrast. Because contrast is typically how we learn that we're out of balance. We're not whole. That we're fragmented. It's what shows us, oh, not that direction, this direction. Guidance systems, all of it is relevant, and it's beautiful. It's a gift of being. So the Tao, the secret of the middle way. The Tao is the way. Neutrality is key, and all the teachers have said the middle way. Walk the path of the middle way. How beautiful is that? We don't need all the fancy words of spirituality to tell us or teach us this. We just need to experience it. Because experience, as we've been talking about, is your teacher. Life's greatest gift is the fact that you get to have all of these experiences. I'm grateful. I hope you are too. Again, The Untethered Soul, we have one more chapter, and I hope you're enjoying it. So please let me know in the comments what stood out the most for you. What inner glimpses did you come to awareness of within yourself? Any golden nuggets, sparks, pokes, provokes, influence, inspiration. And if you like this video, please click the like, smash the notification bell, ding, so that you don't miss a beat and you don't miss any of my videos. If you're enjoying this content, please let me know. As we come to a close of this book, maybe we'll do another. But I need some input. Give me some feedback. I would almost recommend The Power versus Force, which is one of my all-time favorites, and completely changed the trajectory of my life when it came down to the levels of consciousness and vibrational scale. Wow. Yeah, good stuff. So, I will see you on the next video. So much love from my heart to yours. Be the best version you can be, because when you know better, you can do better. I love you.